According to a recent report by musicradar.com, more music is released today, in a single day, than in the entire calendar year of 1989. Just think how crazy that is. We have more options for what to listen to in a single day today than were released in the entire year of 1989.
On MTV, Music Television, April Wine, just between you and me, the name of that one.
A recent State of the Music Creator Economy report by an industry analyst found that the overall number of music creators was currently around 75.9 million, a 12% increase from the previous year. However, that analyst in their report anticipates that this current trend is going more or less exponential. According to the article, that number is projected to grow to almost 200 million people by the year 2030. Now, the article doesn't make it explicitly clear if this number is even factoring in advances in AI music generation. If it's not factoring that in, I think it's safe to say that this number here, this 198.2 million, is wildly underestimating it. The article goes on to state that the reason for this growth is fueled in part by a rise in what it calls consumer creators. Consumer creators transform photography via Instagram and videography via TikTok. The article specifically says TikTok. I think it's worth noting that we should probably include YouTube there as much more of a factor in consumer created video content than TikTok. I think this article is simply basing this estimate on the tools that currently exist. If it is not factoring in AI music generation, which allows anyone, regardless whether they can sing, which is something that, I couldn't sing a song to save my life, at least not anything that anyone in any universe would ever want to listen to. I am terrible at playing instruments, but I can make music with AI, and you can too. Anyone can. It's certainly not at the caliber of a professional musician, at least not yet. But that's often irrelevant. You can argue till you're blue in the face about what's good music, what's just, good enough music, what's fun pop music. It's hard to argue that people only listen to music because it's good. And this goes for any form of entertainment. How many people have Beethoven and Mozart as their number one Spotify artists, or even in their top 10? How many professional musicians who are music snobs who would argue that, of course, they only listen to music because it's good? How many of them have Mozart or Beethoven in their top 100? Are Mozart and Beethoven not unanimously considered to be pretty good musicians? But of course, we don't only listen to music because it's good, and we don't only engage in entertainment because it's good. We often engage in entertainment because it speaks to us on some kind of personal level for whatever reason. Quality is obviously extremely subjective, and there are a lot of different reasons why you might find a song enjoyable or memorable or just something that you want to listen to make you feel a certain way. Music is an extremely personal form of entertainment. People often listen to music because it says something very deeply meaningful to them. So in the future, if you want a song personally catered to you about whatever circumstance in life you're going through, well, actually, this is not even in the future. You can do this right now, today. And the technology is very, very young. It's only really a couple of months old. And this is already possible. Whatever you want a song about, it's not going to be great. It's not going to be Mozart. But let's be honest, you don't even listen to Mozart, do you? But you can have a song that's as specific to you and your life as you want it to be right now, with a fledgling nascent technology that is in the absolutely earliest stages of development, that is only going to get better, and not just better, but orders of magnitude better. Would you like a ska punk song about someone who's going to the gym and can't stop farting? Boom, done.
It's a stinky beat dropping all over the room. Trying to keep it muffled, but my body won't comply. I'm a brass section marching under the fluorescent sky. Yes.
You want a goofy, weird prog rock song about squirrels? Guess what? You got it.
In the forest, shadows fall. Watch the trees and hear the call. Squirrels dart from tree to tree, as deadly as the eye can see. Oh, the squirrels strike with fury, in the branches always blurry. Fear the cunning owl's hill.
Would you like to write a folk ballad about your friend John Ross, who once allegedly swallowed an entire egg whole and had a stomachache for an entire week?
That fateful feast when John Ross did the unlikely, brave and bold. Hero or fool, the line's so fine. In far off lands his tail does grow. With belly full he roamed the hall. Each step he took brought forth the jest. Yet in his stride a pride was found, for John Ross proved his gut was best. Oh, raise a glass to John Ross now, the egg-bound
Just wanted to say a quick thanks for checking out this video. My channel here is focused on art and entertainment, philosophy and exploration. If that interests you, well, you know what to do. Thanks again for watching. It keeps the bears happy, and have a great day. So when I'm talking about the devil's bargain that is the future of entertainment, what I'm talking about is the progression of technology, continuing to make art and entertainment easier to produce and easier to consume in what looks like an essentially exponential fashion, running into what may prove to be the endpoint of technology, or probably not the endpoint of technology, but I mean what people refer to as the singularity with artificial intelligence. And without getting, bogged down by what people mean by that, because I think different people mean different things. Essentially what I'm referring to, at least in this specific context when it comes to entertainment, is hitting a point where entertainment becomes essentially infinite, where you have an infinite array of entertainment options to choose from. And I think we are already almost basically there, even without artificial intelligence. Like, it's entered the chat, right? And it's chimed in a few ways, but no one's watching movies made by AI yet. It looks like we're probably not more than a few years away from that. Who knows? But even if it's 5 or 10 years, the point remains the same. I mean, even if it's 20 years, the point remains the same. In terms of music and images, I mean, essentially we're already there. It's far, far from perfect, but it's good enough that it's relevant currently, in certain formats, in certain forms. And again, I need to stress the point that you don't even really need artificial intelligence to look at it this way. I mean, that's going to rocket it into space. That's going to absolutely push this into, what essentially is infinity, an infinity of options. The way that just general trends are heading, we already live on a planet of 8 billion people, many of whom are producing, again, that term, content. I hate it, but it gets the point across. We're already on a planet of 8 billion people producing content on a regular basis. And we've already changed our entertainment consumption habits, that this is what we're primarily consuming. Like, Hollywood is struggling. The golden age of TV is pretty clearly dead. No one's seeing, engaging, listening to the same things anymore. I mean, even giant podcasts like Joe Rogan are notable as the exception. as something that is still somewhat of a water cooler phenomenon. But most podcasts that I listen to, if I walked up to the average person on the street, I mean, they would never have heard of the podcast, and even the subject matter of the podcast, they would look at me like, what are you talking about? Granted, I'm a particularly weird guy, but whatever. We're already in this world where very few people are consuming the same entertainment. The easiest way to summarize this is the idea that people used to have of water cooler. Is that what it's called? A water cooler? I don't know. My brain's blanking. In an office when people go to the big jug of water to get a drink of water, and for some reason I'm questioning if this was called a water cooler. I don't know. My brain is broken. I mean, I think this is breaking all of our brains. So, there used to be this idea that you worked in an office. Most people worked in an office. You would gather around the water cooler, the water jug, whatever it was called. Get your glass of water to take a little break, or maybe a smoke break. You can picture a smoke break too, same concept. You're taking a break with your coworkers, and you could talk about whatever the big thing was. And in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, when you had a couple network TV shows and people went to the movies and talked about, the big blockbuster movies, or MASH, or the Johnny Carson show, or, whatever the entertainment juggernaut of the time was. And of course, there were still fringe things then. Not everyone listened to Led Zeppelin. Not everyone saw Jaws in theaters, or, whatever. Those were kind of the mileposts, the big landmark things. And then there's still fringe culture around that. But it was much more concentrated. The effect of the last decades has been a vast and rapid dilution of that communal water cooler. Everyone has seen this. Everyone can talk about it. I mean, not literally everyone, but most people have seen. A lot of people have seen it. A lot of people can talk about it. You can go to the water cooler, take a smoke break, and chances are, in a group of 10 coworkers, you're going to be able to talk to your coworkers about something that, at least a handful of them know what you're talking about. Same with music. I mean, any type of entertainment. Everyone knew who Nirvana was. Everyone knew who Michael Jackson was. Everyone knew who, even Blink-182. And then, you get more and more fractured over time. The internet sped this up. Social media sped this up. Smartphones sped this up. Smartphones and social media go hand in hand. And now AI is going to push it over a cliff. That might be going in the wrong direction, depending how you want to perceive this metaphor. AI, if you don't want to push it over a cliff, AI is going to put it on a rocket to the moon. This is going to exacerbate the phenomenon and make it happen so much more quickly. So here's the devil's bargain. In the future, you will be able to have any entertainment that you want, anything your heart desires. It's a genie in a bottle. It can grant you any wish, anything you want to see, any music, boom, catered personally to you. Any movie you want to see, boom, personally catered to you. Oh, you want to remake that movie and try it with, as a Bollywood style musical? Boom, done. Anything you want at any time. This is where we're headed. It's all going to be available. You are going to be in an entertainment matrix where you can have an entire entertainment diet catered just for you, just for special little you. You, and unfortunately only you. Because if you try to talk to anyone you know, if you take a smoke break or go to the water cooler, try to talk to your coworkers about these things, they're not going to have seen it. They're not going to have heard it. They're going to have no idea what you're talking about. Again, this is already sort of where we're at, but imagine this 1,000 times more so, where that content literally doesn't even exist for the other person. You can, I'm not going to try to guess at the legal minutia of this future. You can probably have the monolith generate your new favorite movie for you, and you can probably share it with friends and family, but how many people will see it? How many people will engage with it? How many people will ever know what you're talking about? Very, very few. So you will live in a future where, in terms of entertainment, in terms of art, in terms of, what you use to navigate the world as a creative human being, you will be alone in this future. You will be able to have anything you want at any time, but you'll be essentially alone. Which is, it's very strange to think about, and this is sort of where my thought experiment's going to trail off, because I don't know what this means. I don't know what's going to happen beyond that. I'm fairly sure that some version of that is already happening and thus will continue to happen. It's not, I don't think it's reckless to predict it. I don't think it's reckless to predict something happening when it's already happening, right? Like, I think this is already happening. So it feels safe to predict that, yes, this is going to continue to happen to some degree. Beyond that, I honestly have no clue. I'm not going to be able to pretend that I'm some oracle, can guess how that changes us. But that's certainly a big change from what our culture was like decades ago, 100 years ago. Although, interestingly, I guess maybe it's somewhat similar to imagining, proto-humans alone in the wilderness with maybe just a family member or a small village, almost essentially the same phenomenon where they just didn't have this. You're imagining humans without culture, essentially. Maybe that sounds harsh, and I don't mean it as in a critical sense. Literally humans without culture, in that, if there's something that you share with only one or two other people, that's an inside joke in a family. That's an oral history in a family or whatever, but that's not culture. Culture is ancient Greece, culture is ancient Rome, culture is ancient China. The things that we can point to, which were largely based on art, philosophy, politics, entertainment, ideas, creativity, that's what the culture was. That's what we talk about when we talk about the culture of different societies. And that won't exist anymore. So where the hell does that leave us? What are we then?
Raise a glass to John Ross now, the egg-bound champion of our days. Oh, John Ross, why did you swallow that egg? Oh, John Ross, how did you swallow that egg? Oh, John Ross, oh, John Ross of the egg. Oh, John Ross of the egg.
In taverns wide his story's told, a legend pure and true. The man who took the challenge and bit more than he could chew. Ask any soul, they've heard the name John Ross the brave so stout, who swallowed whole an egg so large and bore the ache throughout. The minstrels play, the people sway, his feat becomes their song, a jest so wild it birthed a smile and laughter all night long.